Well, joining me now from Jerusalem, Avi Mayer. He is the founder of the Jerusalem Journal and former editor of the Jerusalem Post. Avi, thanks so much for being with us. I'm wondering what you are hearing from Israelis, from Israeli officials, publicly or privately, about this 2 weeks or within 2 week deadline that President Trump announced yesterday.
Well, Anderson, good to see you again. I think that Israelis are taking this 2 week period with a grain of salt. 2 weeks is a phrase that the president has used many times with regard to many different issues. He's fairly flexible in his timeframes. I would anticipate that something could happen much sooner, although, again, of course, President Trump is a rather unpredictable guy. It's certainly possible that he will take his time, but it seems like the impetus to do something is now. We see that there are truth movements, that they've moved quite a lot of military hardware to the Middle East in order to prepare for some kind of participation in this military campaign against Iran's nuclear program. I would guess that there's something that will probably happen much sooner than 2 weeks from now.
Do you believe, as the Iranian spokesperson just said to Fred Pleitgen, that President Trump could get Prime Minister Netanyahu to actually stop the strikes?
Look, at the end of the day, this is an existential issue for Israel. The government of Iran, as represented by the deputy foreign minister who just spoke to you, has had genocidal aims for this country. They say so very openly. They want to wipe Israel off the map, and we know they've been developing the means to do exactly that. So I don't know that Israel would have just sort of sat by the wayside and said, no, it's fine, we'll let someone else take care of it. It was very clear, I think, to the prime minister that he had to take action now. And I don't think that we're in a position to stop this at this time. As we understand from Israeli officials, there are still quite a few war aims that have not been achieved as of yet. Most notably, of course, that site at Fordo, that fortified underground site that many have said can only be breached by use of these bunker busters that only the U.S. has. Israeli officials are now saying that they could do something there if they must. So I don't know if it's necessarily true that the United States or anyone else could stop Israel from doing what it feels is necessary to keep its people safe.
I would imagine, and I'm wondering if you've heard this at all behind the scenes from Israeli officials, that they must have had a plan, or at least war-gamed out, what a strike against Fordo would look like if the U.S. was not involved. I mean, I know there have been other strikes that Israel's special forces have done in Syria, for instance, against, I believe it was a chemical weapons facility that was using special forces. There must be some sort of a plan that they have at least considered.
We understand from Israeli officials that there is a plan, that if Israel needs to go it alone, it absolutely can. We don't know exactly what that looks like. They're not sharing those details with members of the press, but we understand that it could be something perhaps unconventional that hasn't been seen before. This, I think, is Israel asserting that if it needs to stand up for its own defense, it certainly can do that, while, of course, it would appreciate the assistance of the United States. We could do it, I think, much more easily using those bunker busters that only the U.S. has.
If there is, in fact, 2 weeks here that the U.S. chooses to delay before making a decision, is this sustainable for 2 more weeks from the IDF, from the Israeli Air Force? Are there enough targets that are reachable?
Well, the Israeli military has said that it needs roughly 5 to 10 days, perhaps 2 weeks, to go through what it calls its bank of targets, the list of targets that it has across Iran that it believes are tied to the nuclear program, the missile program, and other things that are sensitive to the regime. So we certainly have no shortage of things to bomb between now and then. I think it's a question of whether the United States will step in and decide to do something on its own or in concert with Israel during that time. I certainly don't think that Israel will have any lack of things to target. We know that there have been quite a few sites spread throughout the country of Iran that have been hit by Israel in recent days. Military targets tied to the regime. I don't think that's likely to stop anytime soon.
Avi Mayer, thank you. Good to talk to you as always.